flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Scoop time with Darren Doogie Wolfson. Executive producer Declan Goff filling in for Judd, who's out at training camp. I believe you dubbed me Wally Pip the last time you and I did this about a month ago, Dukes.
Absolutely. That's why you're back, Declan. We could have gone with any number of potential replacements. Judd is busy to undergo yet another COVID test. We have to undergo COVID testing out there at Vikings. For Judd to go a little bit earlier than normal, go get his COVID test done. He can now pepper Mike Zimmer with a bunch of questions here in the next few minutes. So, he's tied up out in Egan. So, this is why you're here. Like, we could have gone with producer AJ. We could have called in weekend guy Manny Hill. I'm telling you,
right.
Like, there were numerous options. Yet I said to Phil Mackey, the executive producer, the boss, the program director, he wears so many different hats. I said, give me Declan Goff. This podcast can't succeed at all. We can debate whether it succeeds to begin with, just with my presence, but it has no chance to succeed unless Declan Goff is a part of it.
We'll get into some Twin stuff later on, but Dukes, I went to Target Field as a fan on Sunday, and the person I was with was asking me about the team. She wasn't very familiar, and then the starting pitcher was announced. She goes, "And who's that guy?" I said, "I actually don't know who that is." And it was Charlie Barnes, who actually pitched very well on Sunday for the Twins, but I actually had no idea who Charlie Barnes is. So I'm Charlie Barnes, okay? I've come up here for a couple spot starts. Can I lock in a rotation spot in 2022? I guess we'll have to wait and see there. Dukes, obviously the news of earlier this morning here on Tuesday was the Timberwolves were able to acquire Patrick Beverley from the Memphis Grizzlies for Jarrett Culver, Juancho Hernan-Gomez. We had Dane Moore on Mackey and Judd earlier today, kind of breaking down literally seconds before we hit record. That news dropped, and we were able to talk about it there. But what have you been hearing about the pursuit of Patrick Beverley, and do you like the fit for the Timberwolves going forward?
Yeah, I mean, this was a trade I would have made, Declan. Gerson Rosas' interest in Patrick goes way back. They were together in Houston. Patrick Beverley's backstory is nothing short of amazing. Playing in Russia, playing in some other countries. Like, it wasn't an easy path for him to become an NBA player. Now, at this point, making over $14 million a year. He has hit the jackpot for life. Rosas, Daryl Morey, others with the Rockets many, many, many years ago, 8-9 years ago, pursued him overseas. So he's been on Gerson's radar for a really long time. The Wolves have a glaring need for a backup point guard. Now, it is interesting to me, Declan, that literally the minute after free agency started a couple Mondays ago in Los Angeles, the first meeting the Wolves had was with Jordan McLaughlin, selling him on the idea that, hey, Jordan, we want you to be our number 2 point guard. We are ready to hand you the keys to that job, give you more of an opportunity. It's just a reminder, Declan, it's a cutthroat business. Yeah. We've talked about this before. It's just another reminder when the Wolves, and to their credit, they haven't done this for a while, but Gerson certainly in the past has championed this idea that it's pretty much kumbaya, let's hold hands, we're one big happy family. That's a bunch of garbage. And now we have further proof because at this point, like, I hope the Wolves work out a sign and trade with McLaughlin, get back some sort of asset, even if it's just a future second-round pick. I think there will be an opportunity for that to take place. But Beverley, he's a bulldog. Like, Declan, when you think about this team needing a veteran presence, Ricky Rubio gone, Ed Davis gone, he helps in that regard. Now, how he's thinking right now, I'd be curious to hear, like, his immediate reaction to being moved here to Minnesota. That might be pretty fascinating. He is represented by the same agent that represents Jared Vanderbilt. So maybe that pushes along the Vanderbilt discussion, restricted free agent. I was told the other day, literally everything is on the table on the Vanderbilt front. That includes signing the qualifying offer for just over $2 million, then electing unrestricted free agency a year from now. But I think if I had to bet, I think a multi-year deal gets done. So the Wolves now have 11 guys under contract. I'm not counting restricted free agents, Jared Vanderbilt and Jordan McLaughlin. They're like $7 to $8-ish million under the luxury tax. So they have some money to play with. A reminder too, you can go over the luxury tax right now. You just need to get under before the end of the season. Now, to get under, they might have to move like a Jake Layman expiring contract in early February and attach some sort of sweetener to move a contract like that. But they can, if they wanted to, go into the luxury tax right now. I like the roster flexibility. Nathan Knight, a guy they signed to a two-way deal, has looked really good in Vegas. And I'm not putting a whole lot of stock in Las Vegas, but that's what good players are supposed to do. Yeah. Look good in Summer League. Nathan Knight played 33 games for the Atlanta Hawks last year, the runner-up in the Eastern Conference. Like, he's a legit NBA player. So at some point, the Wolves may need to do what they did with Naz Reid, convert Nathan Knight from a two-way to a standard NBA deal. So trading two guys for one offers that much more roster flexibility if they need to get to that point of signing Knight to a standard deal. And I mean, heck, Culver, Hernan Gomez, Declan, like, they weren't going to contribute at all next year. Now, Culver is 22. Like, I'm not writing the final chapter on his NBA career. The Wolves tried to turn him into a 3-and-D guy. That's not his game. Like, go back and watch Texas Tech film. He's a mid-range guy. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping he gets an opportunity to showcase his skill set in Memphis. But it wasn't going to happen here. And, Hernan Gomez, it wasn't going to happen here either. So the Wolves bring in Beverley, who can help them. It's another monster expiring contract if you need something like that at the trade deadline. So they now have Taurean Prince, monster expiring contract. They have Patrick Beverley, monster expiring contract. So in terms of future, potential flexibility, in terms of helping them immediately, like this is a trade I would have done. But also, Declan, I probably would have just kept Ricky Rubio. Like, Rubio had COVID a year ago, came into camp out of shape. It was a miserable year. I don't think you can spin it any other way for Rubio here, but you watch him in Tokyo, he looks like, and I get it, the international game is a different game. He's dominated on the international scene for a long time, but like, you watch those Spain games, in Tokyo, the exhibition games, he looks like the Rubio of a few years ago. I'd rather have that player than Patrick Beverley, but the way they did some things and, that Rubio Prince trade did give them a little bit more flexibility. If there maybe is another move that we just don't know about as they continue to pursue, whether it's a Ben Simmons or a Lauri Markkanen, if a deal like that happens, okay, then all these moves make a little bit more sense. But I'm just telling you, I'd rather have Rubio than Beverley. But the way they were currently constructed, like, this is a trade I absolutely would have done. So I give them a thumbs up on this very specific transaction.
In terms of the cap ramifications, our friend Bobby Marks tweeted out this morning, a friend of your show on the Scoop podcast and on Mackey and Judd as well. He said Patrick Beverley at 14.2, Minnesota at 9.2 below the tax, and right now 11 players under contract for Minnesota. So yeah, still some wiggle room there. Dukes, Dane also threw out after he hopped off with us on Mackey and Judd that the Wolves were also considering maybe making a move for Marcus Smart with Boston. And now you also replied back saying that, that probably would have taken a hell of a lot more than Juancho Hernan-Gomez and Jarrett Culver to get there. But just from a 30,000-foot view, would you rather have had the Wolves push more assets to get Marcus Smart, or would you rather have them do what they did, giving up Hernan-Gomez and Jarrett Culver to get Patrick Beverley instead?
Well, so Smart ultimately signs an extension with Boston, 4 years, almost $80 million. I really like Marcus Smart, but to pay him that much money, and if you're the Wolves, you would have had to give up Jaden McDaniels, maybe more. Like, I'd rather have McDaniels and Beverley and not pay Marcus Smart nearly $20 million a year. But I like Marcus Smart. I know Brad Stevens, who now runs the Celtics, thinks the world of Smart. I mean, that goes back to Declan. 98% of NBA trades that are talked about never happen. Like, the Wolves have, especially with Gerson, I mean, they've poked around on a lot of guys. So, yeah, I mean, Dane is spot on. Yeah, Marcus Smart is a guy that absolutely has fans in the Wolves front office. I just don't know if there ever really was any sort of, like, legitimate, logical path to the Wolves actually acquiring him. And remember, I had the report Boston did kick the tires at one point on Ricky Rubio. So when Boston was kicking the tires on Rubio before they dealt him to Cleveland, that's when Marcus's name came up.
A little bit of reckless speculation, too, from Phil Mackey from our show earlier this morning.
Reckless speculation.
And I believe he got this from Keith Sang or some other people in the Wolves blogosphere. But they kind of think with the addition of Pat Beverley, who was just moved from the Clippers to the Grizzlies and now on the Timberwolves, so it's third team in 2 weeks here, that Beverley could actually be another asset used in a possible trade to land Ben Simmons. I know Woj had a bomb today. I guess not a bomb, but a nugget, I guess I should say, on ESPN that the Wolves are still intrigued and inquiring on Ben Simmons from the Sixers, but they're still looking for that third team. Does Patrick Beverley's contract in addition help the pursuit of a Ben Simmons trade, Dukes? How would you kind of look at that right now?
Well, it doesn't hurt. I mean, Philadelphia had no interest in Jarrett Culver and Juancho Hernan-Gomez. Considering, Daryl Morey's history with Patrick Beverley, I think Beverley moves the needle more for Morey than those two guys certainly did. And as long as Ben Simmons is in Philadelphia, the Wolves are going to continue to pester the Sixers with inquiries, with different ideas. And as we've said for weeks, there just isn't a logical match. A 1-for-1. When I say 1-for-1, one team with another team, Philadelphia, Minnesota. There isn't a trade match that lands Ben Simmons here in Minnesota. So we've said for weeks the Wolves need to involve minimum a third team. Who knows? Maybe even a fourth team. And how many 4-team trades happen? I mean, they're pretty rare. Now, I think there actually was a 5-team trade about a week ago. But that was some other parts that came in late. There's so many moving parts with a multi-team trade. They're difficult, not impossible, but difficult. But as long as Ben Simmons is there, Declan, yeah, the Wolves are going to make every effort to land him here. They want Ben Simmons. It goes back to what I said, pre-draft, going back to June. The Wolves, quote, want Ben Simmons badly. Nothing has changed on that front. Let me add one thing, Declan. I was going back and forth with somebody who knows Patrick Beverley well. In fact, I'm trying to track down his trainer. So he's from the west side of Chicago. So he's got a trainer down there that trains some other NBA guys. I'm trying to track down his trainer. But anyway, I was curious, with Gerson's history with Beverley, and Beverley, would he be happy or not? I'm told he is happy. He likes this move. Right now, Patrick Beverley, remember I said, hey, Declan, I'd love to hear, just that initial reaction. Mm-hmm. I think he was hurt when the Clippers moved him. That's his franchise, his guys, Kawhi, Paul George. But like Minnesota or Memphis, I'm led to believe that Patrick Beverley is happy with today's news.
Also, Malik Beasley was released from Wright County Jail earlier this morning as well, Dukes. Is Malik still part of the Wolves' future plans here? Like, do you envision him still being part of the rotation and part of the Wolves' pursuit of making the postseason here next season when the NBA season doesn't open up in a couple months?
Yeah, well, he'll be here. Yeah, 78 days in jail. Now, there was a work release where he was able to go to Mayo Clinic Square and get some work in with the Wolves coaches. So it's not like he was just stuck in his jail cell the last 78 days. But yeah, he had to go back there. That was just a work release deal. Now he's officially a free man as of 7:09 this morning out of Wright County Jail. I would say this, Declan, they're married to Anthony Edwards. Yep. They're married to Karl Anthony Towns. For the most part, they are married to D'Angelo Russell. Are they married to Malik Beasley? No. If it takes Malik Beasley to land Ben Simmons, the Wolves are going to move Malik Beasley. But they look at it like, hey, it's a team option for that fourth year at $14.5 million a year. Look at the contract Doug McDermott just got. Yeah. Doug can play, but would you rather have Doug McDermott or Malik Beasley? I think you'd rather have Beasley, even with his defensive faults. Not that Doug doesn't have those faults too, but Malik is a very gifted offensive player. So, he can help them. So, yeah, I think he's here opening night. But is he here opening night of the 2022-2023 season? I don't know if I would say that.
And Dukes, one last Wolves note before we move on to other topics here. How are the Wolves planning to round out their coaching staff now under Chris Finch for this season?
Yeah, so the number one assistant is Micah Nori. We were on top of that going back many weeks. Pablo Prigioni is their number 2 assistant. So they are looking to fill the number 3 assistant role. Joseph Blair elevated. He left here, was the number 3 here, although he was going to have a lot of defensive responsibilities, but he was the number 3 here. He goes to the Washington Wizards to be their number 2. So that is a step up. So I'm happy for Joseph Blair. More of a growth opportunity also in Washington. I'm told that the Wolves are pretty open-minded, Declan. Now, logic points to the idea of them hiring a coach with some defensive chops, right? And yeah, it's entirely possible they go that route, but I'm told that they're pretty open-minded. They can spread if need be, if the right candidate emerges. They can spread some of those defensive coaching responsibilities, among themselves, and Finch has even told me in some one-on-one chats, Declan, like, yeah, offense is maybe, his bread and butter, but like he's got some defensive coaching chops. He had to coach defense when he coached overseas. Like, he knows how to coach defense, and you still need the personnel. Like, the Wolves still have a ways to go, and that's where Beverley will help. I mean, he can be just a dog on defense. Sometimes over the top, but this team probably needs a little bit of that swagger. So Beverly's going to help in that regard. But to answer your question, Declan, I'm told they have an open mind. I can't give you any specific names right this second, but that they're open-minded, that they're not married to the idea of just having to force feed themselves a defensive coordinator.